Welcome back, comrades. This is Gaming with Austin, and today we're going towards episode 136 of the Utopian Community series. You know, anything, like, when it goes to anything that's a requirement for survival, it'll always be high in demand. When you take that requirement away, they will die. The reason we sense hunger is it's an evolutionary advantage for survival. Friend. Back to game. That was a friend I was talking to. Anything that's required for survival is always high in demand. An example is food. If there's a large population, demand for food rises because you need food to survive. Food is a requirement for survival. Without food, you will die. The problem with taxing the rich around the world is that if it does happen, North Korea, Saudi Arabia, much of the Middle East would wage war against the United Nations for tax. The United Nations would declare war on them for tax evasion. For tax evasion. The reason I couldn't exercise today, I donated platelets today. Problem with free health care is some people would exploit the system by neglecting their health just for free health care. That is considered insurance fraud. If I had a car, I'd deliberately wreck it. just to get the insurance money to make the car payment. Some people resort to insurance fraud. Which is a Larry the Cable Guy joke. Truth about why nothing will ever be free is because one of those reasons, it lies within the laws of thermodynamics. Work by itself is not free. Cause your heart, when it beats, it uses energy. Which is proof that the nothing is free scenario, it applies everywhere in the universe. When the star gets really hot, it burns hydrogen and fuses it into helium. And that's not free. It requires energy. It requires a lot of heat and pressure for that to happen. The reason why antimatter is so expensive, it's not just because it's hard to make it, it's also really hard to store it. You can't just store it in an ordinary container made completely out of matter. No. You can't just do that. You can't just do that. You can't just do that. You need something called an electromagnetic field. You need a powerful magnetic field to contain the antimatter. You can't just block gravity with ordinary matter, it only amplifies it very slightly. The reason we have people that are against genetic testing is for the same reason we have anti-vaxxers. Some people go against genetic testing for religious reasons. Some people avoid healthcare altogether for religious reasons. Some people avoid healthcare for religious reasons. Which is why some children end up dying, even though there's healthcare. You know, in truly communist countries, profits will stagnate. Like, it costs $20 to produce an iPhone, yet costs $300 to buy one. It's not fair. To make it fair, it should cost even less. The reason diamonds are so expensive is the labor costs involved in cutting the diamond ore to purify the diamonds. It's the labor costs involved. In a truly communist society, there'd be massive pressures to start the recycling program. Or cats do in fact have a really high protein requirement. They lack the physiology to break down the protein. That comes from plants. Want to know what the real factor behind, the biggest factor behind climate change is actually? I'd put intensive animal farming on the list. If the atmosphere on Earth was 100% pure oxygen, our bodies would oxidize, which is not good. An oxidizing body is not good for our health. We can get away with a little more oxygen in parts per million, but not too much oxygen. Because too much oxygen can literally kill you. Which is why you should never stay in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber for too long. Or else your body would literally oxidize. One cow produces more methane per pound compared a body weight compared to humans. The flammable part of our flatulence is actually a hydrogen gas. The flammable part of our flatulence is actually the hydrogen gas. The church clock beats. You better beware, you better take care now. Your cats have a greater need to eat during... humans tend to have a greater need to eat physiologically, or else... Because if they ate the same amount of food during pregnancy, they will be malnourished, so will the baby. It ain't good for the baby. Fast as a shark and you're not coming hard. You know, parents who have less kids don't have to work as hard to raise them. Which probably explains why. And eventually the United States would be spending a lot more money on interest than anything else. When did the United States start going into debt? Probably close to the end. The first debt crisis in America was during the Great Depression. Some countries haven't recovered fully from it yet. The goal of my 5-year plans is to make sure everybody can afford a house. My 5-year plans, I'd focus towards recycling. You don't necessarily have to kill animals to survive, unless you're an obligate carnivore. What we need is equality. You don't have to eat meat to survive, as you're not a cat. You don't need meat to survive. Why cats love a strong meaty flavor? It's as close as they can get to their natural diets. One thing that science cannot explain is your cat's natural behavior. And why they won't listen to you when you tell them to listen to you. Like, other than the fact that they're not fully domesticated yet. They are not fully domesticated yet. They are not fully domesticated yet. They're not fully domesticated. It's going to be several generations, like, of our human lifetime before we can domesticate them fully. Because dogs, we've learned to domesticate them quite easily compared to cats. Why decide... You know, cats cannot show compassion at all. It's one of the feelings they're not able to show. At all. Because for one, cats are in fact obligate carnivores. Which means they have no choice. You'd never see a lion graze on the field. You know, there are cats out there there are animals out there. Your dog can go vegan if you do it very carefully, but your cat is not able to. It doesn't fucking matter. Because if you put your cat on a vegan diet, they will die. If your cat cannot... Your cat is not able to stop eating meat at all. They are literally natural-born killers. And the reason for that is, for their natural-born killer lifestyle, is that they are obligate carnivores. Putting your cat on a vegan diet, it is unnatural. What is considered animal abuse? Eating that animal alive. The reason our most important instinct is to live, like we want to live as long as possible, it's actually to ensure the survival of the human race. It's one of those hive mind instincts that is in every member of every animal species. You don't necessarily have to kill animals to survive. The reason our bodies have to sense hunger is to know when we have to eat. If we didn't sense that ability to know when we have to eat, we would literally die from malnutrition. What drives us into eating? The fact that we need to in order to survive. Your body, you don't have to kill animals to survive. You are not a cat. You are not a cat. You'd never see a lion graze out on the fields. The only way to reliably check for CJD is through a necropsy. The reason why it's so rare now, it's not just because of education, but it's also due to evolution. Because back in the day, we ate the flesh of dead tribesmen, of dead tribespeople. ultimately led to a mysterious disease we now call Kuru, which is actually closely related to CJD. When eating meat is a requirement, we have no choice but to kill animals. You don't have to kill animals to survive. You're not a cat. You're not a cat. You're not a cat. You're not a cat. What do all cats share in common? Have a lot in common? They're... You're not a cat. You're not a cat. Dogs are usually scavengers. They don't kill animals directly, but the animal doesn't get killed by the prey. Whether the prey is alive or dead, they're still gonna eventually get eaten by carnivores, whether it be scavengers or predators. If they die before they get eaten by predators, the scavengers would take advantage of that rotted body landslide. Why I call it a rotted body landslide? Because that's what it really is. It's a rotted body landslide. I call it a rotted body landslide. As in the death metal song. That is a death metal joke, I was telling. And if you had a cat, you'd be better off feeding them raw meat. You'd be better off feeding them raw meat. Because evolutionarily speaking, they only needed as much water as their prey had from the prey they consumed. By nature, your cat has to eat meat to survive. Take that meat away and they will die. The best way to diagnose CJD is through an autopsy. It's the only way to diagnose it reliably. If you have any blood relative with CJD, you wouldn't want to be donating. But if it's a familial type of CJD, and its relatives including fatal familial insomnia and GSS syndrome, it's not a good idea to donate at all. Because those prions can go into the bloodstream, just like CJD. There's this tribe in Papua New Guinea that once practiced cannibalism. There was this tribe in Papua New Guinea that practiced cannibalism. Many of the cannibalist tribesmen ended up developing something similar to CJD called Kuru. The reason the food characters in Sausage Party will ultimately become a meal, a lot of it has to do with the fact that eating is a requirement for survival. Which probably explains why Firewater told Frank that the god's hunger is insatiable. The reason he told Frank that is because, like in real life, food is a requirement for survival. Without food, you will die. By nature, we're not able to see food as sentient beings at all. At all, we are not able to see food as sentient beings. For me, I wouldn't see animals as food at all. Because we are not carnivores. You know, you cannot survive without food. That's not how life works anywhere in the universe. That's not how life in the universe works. Food is a requirement for all life in the universe for survival. The reason electricity has to find the path of least resistance is to prevent overheating. It's done to prevent overheating. Yet, even in the path of least resistance, there is still some resistance. Even if it takes a path of least resistance, there will still be some resistance. Which explains why electronics will get hot eventually. Batteries end up losing charge over time. Wonder how we can make our engines a lot more efficient. We could use liquid nitrogen. But the problem with liquid nitrogen is it evaporates really quickly. You know, the thermal efficiency of any process in the universe will never reach 100%. Because with carbon dioxide and H2O, it's at a lower energy state than hydrocarbons and oxygen. With Germany's Lebensraum, Hitler's Lebensraum. Anyways, this is it for this gaming video. Don't forget to subscribe if you love my videos. Like if you like this video. Dislike if you disliked it. Share this with your comrades on social media. And as always, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more, and peace out.